Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's editor-in-chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Kawakami here, TK Show, recording from Kawakami Studios now. It's kind of our regular thing. I don't know, my producer just seems to love the sound we get here. And I kind of like the location. Good to have everybody. This is the morning after the Warriors' victory on Game 2. Lots of things going on in that game. A little quick turnaround for myself and my very, very special guest, the Athletics' own Anthony Slater, beat writer to the Stars. Anthony, good morning. How you doing? And what when you woke up this morning, what were you thinking about this basketball game that we saw last night?
More, probably most interesting of the 7 playoff games now, because obviously you have the Steph Curry, return looming over it all. Draymond Green continued. I mean, what has been an unbelievable postseason for him, but also gotten a couple dust ups, including one, as I know you were kind of in the center of, with Charles Barkley. And just, I don't know. I mean, the Pelicans played well, which is helpful when the competition plays at least up to the level. Maybe you can blame the Warriors defense for that. But, 121-116, that's good, fun playoff basketball. We still haven't, seen the Warriors pushed at all. I mean, they're up 2-0 in the series. They really haven't been pushed even with a deficit in this series. But it's more interesting than this first series, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pelicans have 2 really good players. Anthony Davis, obviously, and Drew Holiday. And I thought Holiday really brought it last night. He tested the Warriors. He tested Garnett. What am I doing? It is early. The guy's name is Kevin Durant. They got 2 really good players. I mean, probably 2 better players than the Spurs have. And that's kind of testing the Warriors. But what you really see is when it really gets down to it, the Pelicans don't have enough good players. They got those 2. You can kind of throw Mirotic in there. Etuan Moore can hit a shot or 2. Rondo can do some things, but Rondo's not built to beat the Warriors. He's just not. You can't shoot the ball or randomly hit a 3 or so. I just don't know. Who else do they have, Anthony, who can hurt the Warriors?
I mean, look, as you mentioned there, Rondo's maybe a third, fourth man. We'll say fourth man. They got him on a 1-year, $3.3 million. Anyone could have had him. There's a reason he was out there. I know he's playing solidly, but still, that's their fourth man. Mirotic, their third man. Yeah, I mean, he's had a good little end of the year, but he was still like a mid-30s three-point shooter that, the Bulls smartly, I thought, gave up for basically a first-round pick, get off that money as part of their rebuild. So it's not like he's some fringe all-star. I mean, he's a pretty flawed player, and that's number 3. And then you go down the list, you get to what we were talking about the other day. Ian Clark, who could barely crack the Warriors' rotation last year, is basically their 7th man. Etuan Moore, who I think most casual fans probably didn't even know who he was entering the series, is been probably their 3rd best player so far in this series. I mean, we'll say he's their 5th, but this is massive depth problems that we knew about. This is the reason why they were fighting for a playoff spot in the last 2 games of the regular season. If they just had a couple bad games late, they literally wouldn't have even been in the playoffs. So I think we got a little overhyped on the Blazers series, and this is making Portland look really bad.
Yes,
I mean, that to me is what this series is doing.
This might get Terry Stotts fired, and I like Terry, but I don't know that everything's going really well with him in management, and then you look at what's happened here, and you go, you couldn't get a game off of that. If I'm management or if I'm Paul Allen, and I'm not that rich, but I would say I wouldn't. You got Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Maybe you could get a game off this team. Maybe you can get 1 game.
Yeah, no, I think a funny tweet last night. I don't remember who put it out. Apologies, but it was like Portland is taking this next step in futility where they're not just going to get swept by the Warriors. They're going to get swept by the team that got swept by the Warriors.
That's pretty good. I don't mind you pilfering that one for this podcast. My thought when Curry came in, and then he obviously 11 seconds into it, he hits his first shot coming off a nice curl. That was as loud as Oracle's been this season. Would you agree with that? I thought it was not even close.
Yeah, I mean, unless they were louder when he actually walked in the game, which is kind of would maybe rival. But it was kind of a cool minute for that crowd. I mean, we already knew it, but it just kind of highlighted how much he means to this franchise, to this fan base. As great as Kevin Durant is, he's kind of was the hired gun a couple years ago, and Draymond Green is the heart and soul, which you saw last night. But Curry is, the everything to this team. And then as far as how he looked last night, 28 points in 27 minutes plus 26. If you're the Houston Rockets watching that, you're probably like, that's not the Steph Curry you wanted to see.
No. Fresh legs, by the way. This fresh legs, Steph Curry.
Bouncy. You know what it reminded me of? Remember, so he sprains his ankle on December 4th. Misses 11 games. It was a bad ankle sprain. Comes back. Remember, he was trying to push to play Christmas, but they wouldn't let him. They kind of kept saying, no. They probably sat him a week longer than they had to. And it got him really anxious going into that game against the Grizzlies. Obviously, the Grizzlies aren't good. But he came out, I think he had 37 points in 26 minutes, 10 of 13 from three. To that point in the season, it was the most threes in a game by anyone. And he did it in basically limited minutes. And he looked so eager to play that night and jumpy. And you saw that last night. This is a guy who's been just chomping to get on the court. And if they get that Steph Curry and not the 2016 version, which, as you know, kind of flamed out in the playoffs, they might this may not be an interesting playoffs like we assume. This might be a rumble.
Yeah, you know what? It just hit me. We might be coming, at the end of June or, middle to late June, we might be hearing them say, you know what? It was bad that Steph was out that long, but in some ways it was a little bit of a benefit because he came back roaring to go instead of kind of, gas tank a little emptying at the end of a long regular season. And they might be thinking that now. Obviously, you never want him to go through all the ankle stuff. You never want him to go through a knee thing for sure. But God, if a fresh Steph Curry in the playoffs. Oh, here we go, by the way. Here's Steph Curry, game 2 of the second round. Now it's just, what is it, a 14-game, 12-game run to the end. That might be something they go, yeah, that wasn't terrible to just drop in the middle of this.
Yeah, this wasn't your normal 51-game injury-rattled season by a guy where maybe, he's not very effective when he comes back, and that's part of the reason maybe he's in and out of the lineup. He's been unbelievable. He had a 120.4 offensive rating when he was on the floor this year, which I think I saw a stat that was the highest in the last 20 seasons of anyone. It was 130 last night when he was on the court, and it was 72 when he was off, which is about as crazy a disparity as I've ever seen. But, I voted him second team All-NBA guard and only playing 51 games, which tells you what he did. They were 41-10 when he was on the floor, and this is during a season where the entire story is how much they didn't care. And they were still 41-10 with him with that offensive rating. Honestly, if he had played 75 games at the level he played those 51 games, I don't think he would have won MVP because I kind of think this was Harden's year, but he would have been right up there in that conversation. So if he's playing at that 2-time MVP level, which he basically is when he is on the floor, you add in obviously what Durant does, Klay Thompson shooting it more efficiently than ever, not that 4 of 20.
Yeah, except for last night.
Yeah, Draymond Green apparently, is who we thought Draymond Green was. He's back to being the Defensive Player of the Year. And Iguodala, too, the way he's playing in these playoffs. This is probably as good as they've ever been. Really, to this point, if you get that Curry, I don't know that they can be stopped.
You know Durant so well. He knows what Curry means to this franchise. He said it himself. He's the system. But when he sees this response to Steph, he sees everyone, now the Warriors are themselves again. And Durant's been out there, and they were 5-1 without Curry. What do you think Durant thinks about just the understanding that Steph Curry is the guy that every, diehard Warriors fan believes is the whole franchise?
I think he signed up for this, and I think he knows he did. If this was the conversation around the Thunder back when Kevin Durant was 24, 25 years old, and everyone was saying, maybe this is Russell Westbrook's franchise, he wouldn't have liked it. But part of what he did in 2016, in those meetings in the Hamptons, whatever, when he made the decision to come to Oakland, he obviously assumed I have star power. I'm not going to go and be completely behind the scenes, and Nike's going to give up my endorsement, and nobody's going to care about me. But he knew he was coming to Steph Curry's franchises, and he should have known. And honestly, if you've listened to most of his quotes over the years, which I know you have over the last couple of years, he likes it this way. He talked about, I think probably the most illuminating one was in a GQ article where he's basically like, I don't want to be the leader. I'm glad he is the leader of the team. I think he's fine doing what he did last night, which is Steph Curry is the story. The fan base is kind of rallying around him, but at the same time, Kevin Durant's the guy that had 15 points in the fourth quarter and basically brought him home and just used kind of that lethal efficiency. Was not efficient in the first 3 quarters, 6 to 17, but 5 of 6 in the fourth, 15 points, great player. I mean, you saw it last year too. Steph's healthy. He's the Finals MVP. He's out playing LeBron James. I think he just wants to be an incredible basketball player and appreciated for what he does on the court. And he can allow Steph to just kind of get all the accolades of he's the kind of the franchise face.
The belovedness, we would say.
Yeah.
I would say Durant played great D in the fourth quarter, too. He was activated. I mean, he was rotating. He was, like, connected to Draymond. And we don't always see that. Hey, we don't always see Draymond playing at this level. But I thought, in particular, he would come help Draymond on Anthony Davis. He'd go bounce back out to Drew Holiday. He'd kick over to a passing lane. He'd grab a rebound. I think when Draymond talks about meeting the energy level, rising up the path, I think a lot of it he's mentioning. Well, I think it's Klay Thompson, and I think it's Durant. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was kind of the story of the season. They were playing really well into Christmas because Kevin Durant was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, legitimately leading the NBA in blocks. He tailed off probably more than, I don't know, Draymond kind of tailed off with him. It was maybe a combo effort, but Kurt talks about it all the time. When Durant is engaged on the help side, he's as good as anyone as a help side, kind of swooping in, block shots. He can rotate. He can switch out. I mean, Draymond guards all 5 positions, but Kevin Durant's very capable of that too. You can see him getting out, and when you kind of it's interesting. If you dangle a star in front of his face, it seems like it gets him going.
Yep.
If it's a Westbrook, a Harden, whoever, if he knows it's a marquee player in front of him, he's usually starts crouching down in a stance, and he can move side to side very well, obviously, for a 7-footer. And he can, I don't know what he finished in blocks this season, but I got to assume it's top 10 in the NBA. So that skill set, when engaged, is a force defensively. You had that with Draymond Green. Klay Thompson, obviously, is so good on, roaming the perimeter and sticking on whoever you want. This should be it was last year a top 2 defense. I think this year they ended 7th. But when they're playing to their capabilities, they're really basically have the Utah Jazz defense with whatever their offense is doing.
Yeah. Putting Durant on Holiday for this series, pretty any doubt that they get through this and Houston gets through, Durant's guarding Harden most of the game?
Maybe not most of the game, but for chunks. It's going to be interesting. I mean, you can see him maybe on Paul at times. I think Harden's probably the smarter matchup because Harden's a bit slower and less fidgety than Paul, and using Durant's length will be a problem. You still want to have Klay Thompson get his shifts on Harden. You still want to have Iguodala. But that is, when we talk about Durant's engagement, that is just a really good way to keep him engaged, is to put him on the ball, where he falls asleep off the ball sometimes. As good as he can be from the help side, he can get back cut, where he's terrible. I'd say maybe his worst NBA skill is boxing out. And that kind of just shows when he's away from the play, and his task is, hey, find the body. Sometimes he just forgets about it. The other thing is sometimes screening off the ball. He's not very good at. He doesn't really have powerful screens. But if he is where the ball is in the fray, as Draymond always kind of likes to say, he's as good as it comes in almost every aspect of basketball. So putting him on Harden is a very good thing to do because the ball is always around James Harden with the Rockets, and Durant's usually good when the ball's around.
We're going to take a quick break for a word from our friends at Hims, a new wellness brand for men. Is that hairline slowly starting to move backwards? I know some of you Warriors fans have used that line when talking about a certain Eastern Conference rival, but it's not funny when it starts happening to you. 66% of men lose their hair by age 35. Thing is, when you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. It's easier to keep the hair you have than to replace the hair you've lost. Do you want your hairline to recede, or do you want to do something about it? Luckily, we've got a solution for you. forhims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss and more for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. No weird snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements. These prescription solutions are backed by science. Save hours by going to forhims.com. It's so easy. Answer a few quick questions, a doctor will review and prescribe you products, and they are shipped directly to your door. Now is your chance to order. TK's listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 while supplies last. See website for full details. This would cost hundreds of dollars if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. So go to forhims.com/TK. That's forhims.com/TK. forhims.com/TK. Now, back to the TK show.
All right, let's talk about Draymond versus Charles Barkley. Last night kind of just developed. Barkley going into halftime sees the video of Draymond and woofing with Rondo. Kind of standard. Draymond was doing it with a lot of people. We all noted that. But I think in the Bay Area, we just kind of noticed saying, hey, Draymond's into this, and that's a sign that Draymond's going to be very good in this game. And the Warriors very rarely lose when that happens. Charles says instead, kind of in Charles' way, I want someone to punch him in the face, and then kind of threw at the crosstalk, says, I want to punch his ass in the face. What did you think when you heard that, when you saw that statement floating around, and did you know that there would be a Draymond response to that?
If he was asked, I figured there would be. I didn't know it was going to be as strong as he came. I was, I guess, a little bit surprised, but not really. I mean, Barkley just kind of says stuff off the cuff all the time, as you know. I think the fact that it was Barkley is what kind of got Draymond going, because, as you know, what is it, like the 19th thing that he said over the last 5 years that has angered the Warriors? I mean, it goes back to jump shooting team, can't win a title, and all the other things kind of that have piled up over the years. I don't necessarily blame Barkley. Have you heard it within context?
It was like it was as they're literally coming off the game and showing Rondo and Draymond, and Eddie, is coming. Ernie Johnson's kind of like getting into the studio set as they're kind of bringing into the studio, and it's just kind of Charles saying, "I want someone to punch this." It's kind of like almost part of the action. And they're kind of laughing. I want someone to punch him in the face. And then you hear some crosstalk. There's some Shaq, and then it's Charles saying, "I want to punch his ass in the face." It wasn't set up. It wasn't a question. It was just kind of Charles narrating as they're coming off with Draymond and Rondo getting into it. I would say, and Draymond did say that, if he wants to do it in real life. If he wants to punch me, he's seen me all the time. Then punch me in the face or shut up. And that was his response to me when I believe I'm the one who told him about it, because I walked with him from the locker room to the press conference. Maybe he knew about it before, but it certainly seemed like he was thinking about it, thinking it through. It took him about 10 seconds. I literally asked him another question, and then he went back and answered very similar, almost identical to what he said at the podium, saying, literally what I said. If he's going to do it, just do it, or shut up. And then, which was pretty dramatic, and then he literally drops the mic and says, "Drop the mic." And then I got pulled over. He wanted to talk to me some more. And it being Draymond, it wasn't him backing away from the statement. It was him saying more, talking about how TNT has Charles as an employee, and he's an embarrassment, and certainly a lot of implications there. Charles Barkley will be covering this series, the Western Conference Finals, starting May 15.
Yes.
So a lot of this is just, this is theater, obviously. But I think it's more than theater in Draymond's mind, at least at the moment.
Yeah, well, and one thing I'll say, if you're a Warriors fan, you want to take a positive out of this, Draymond was kind of dull in media scrums the last 3 months of the season, maybe. I mean, dull by his standards.
Yeah,
he's still pretty good when you put him, but he didn't want to do it, and he just kind of seemed bored with it a bit, and he didn't have his usual moments that are, going viral on Twitter, and you put a video out of it, and he's ranting about this or that. Like, he really didn't do much of that, and I thought that was kind of tied into how dull his play was, really, in the last few seasons. And then suddenly the playoffs have started, and this is probably his third or fourth fun, engaged, different press conference, and, it's always on different subjects. The other day, I remember it was on Chris Webber, and then he stood up and he did the Popovich thing, and then at the end he answered the question about the stolen jacket, and, he's really he's sitting there and doing long press conferences, going detailed on subjects, and that to me is just like his mind is back and really engaged in every aspect of the game, which means he's probably digging in deep on the game plan. Clearly, when he's on the court, he's going really hard, and even in the post game, he's just kind of back to being him. And I just think his press conferences on all these variety of subjects are just an example of that.
Press conference as a window into Draymond Green's preparation. I love it. I was thinking something sort of similar, not in that detail, just saying, and I almost wrote this, but I thought it was a little bit with the fireworks going back and forth. Might as well just let the fireworks speak for themselves. But if you're a Warriors coach, I think you got to love this. As Kerr said, you don't want him to get technicals, you don't want him to get flagrants, but Draymond this engaged, for the basketball, obviously he was engaged, but even then, when he has something going on, when there's a chip on his shoulder, which is almost always, but when it's public, Draymond isn't going to shrink from that stuff. He's going like Draymond in Game 7 against Cleveland after they're kicked back to 3-1 lead. He does get suspended for Game 5. They lose Game 6 in Cleveland, but he played one of the greatest Game 7s I've ever seen in a losing effort. Draymond with the camera on him, with the focus on him, is an incredible player. He loves it. And if I'm a Warriors fan, I'm a Warriors coach, I think this is incredible.
You want to take it to the next level, too. 0 technicals in 7 games. He's still sitting there at that 0 mark, which means he's doing it, but smartly doing it too. He has not really gone after referees. It's more been about other players where, he's maybe bordering on technical a couple times with Bertans, one time with Mirotic yesterday. But the fact that he's sitting there at 0, I know he has a flagrant point, which, there's a history there, but he had 0 flagrants all season. Maybe that some of that was kind of the dullness of his play. And I didn't think the flagrant was that bad. I mean, you look at his elbow against Bertans compared to the elbow Kevin Love gave DeMar DeRozan and got a common foul yesterday. I think Draymond is very much – he's playing with that ferocity you want, but he hasn't, I don't even think, nearly pushed the edge. Man, there was times in the regular season, I think it was a lot trying to get himself going, but he got ejected, maybe 3-4 times, and I thought he almost got ejected maybe another 6 times during the season. He was really pushing referees, and we haven't seen that even as well as he's been playing. Yeah,
again, controversy with Draymond Green – it does not mean that he plays Barkley. I think it's the exact opposite. If he can stay within the lines, and he is staying within at least the lines that NBA is drawn from. I was going to give you a quiz here. You got JaVale McGee, Zaza Pachulia, Jordan Bell, Quinn Cook. All did not play much or at all so far in this series. Which one of them is most likely to get some time, maybe later in the series or into the next couple series?
Quinn Cook, I think, as this series moves on, because this is not a series for centers, and most of the guys you named obviously were centers. I think JaVale, Zaza, Jordan Bell, those are DNPs coming up. But Quinn Cook, to me, as Curry's going to, I believe, move back in the starting lineup in Game 3. Nick Young, I don't even just think's moving out of the starting lineup. I think he's probably moving out of the rotation. He was minus 11 in 11 minutes last night. So I think that opens up, maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes for Quinn Cook, especially if Curry's still not playing his full, 38 minutes of a playoff game. He's probably still going to be down in maybe the 32, 33 range. And I think Quinn Cook should get minutes. How much better has he been than Nick Young in the last 2.5 months? That's where I'd maybe question Curry yesterday. Sure, if you don't want to start Curry, don't start Curry. Why not Quinn Cook over Nick Young? Maybe it's a size thing. Maybe you're trying to get Nick Young going. But Quinn Cook has just been a much better player for a few months now than Nick Young, and doing things that Nick Young's supposed to do, which is spot up shoot, better than Nick Young has been doing them. And he's not as big a defender, but he's a lot smarter and more focused a defender than Nick Young. So of those guys, I think it's definitely Quinn Cook. But the center spot's interesting. I mean, I can't believe what's happened to it this season. I mean, imagine if I told you preseason, Kevon Looney through 7 playoff games, 147 minutes. Zaza Pachulia, a healthy Zaza Pachulia, 0 minutes. It's that position. It's really completely been flipped on its head.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and also, by the way, it's not like they're playing non-center post teams. It's go get LaMarcus Aldridge and go get Anthony Davis, and it's Kevon Looney, and basically only Kevon Looney. It's Looney and Draymond. That's it. That is, well, I guess JaVale, I got him in the first round. I shouldn't say that, but the big
David West a little too.
Yeah, David West too. We always got to put David West to the side because he always is going to get baked into those minutes. But man, and Louis, by the way, the backup power forward now. He's getting the backup, those minutes with David West. It's an interesting 4-5 combo. Not the greatest, not the smoothest, but Kevon Looney is he's like the 7th man on this team right now, 7th, 8th man.
He's played the 5th most minutes in the playoffs of anyone, and he's a plus 64 in 147 minutes. That plus 64 is 3rd on the team, behind only Draymond and KD, who have played, basically double his minutes. So his per minute plus minus is the best on the team right now, and it shows on the court. I mean, I didn't know he was as good a defender, and I don't think anyone knew. I don't even think he knew he was as good as a defender. I just think, strangely, his lack of elite NBA burst and athleticism has played beautifully into how he's used as an NBA defender, because all of these guys that usually get big men on them, because the Jordan Bells of the world on them, and we're talking Harden or Holiday, any of these guys, they try to bait them to get jumpy. They throw a crossover move where it's basically you're twitching to the right and then you're going to the left. That usually gets big men to like jump this way and then you can go this way. Looney just kind of stands there, watches these guys, uses his just limbs of arms that are, I think he has a 7'3" wingspan.
Yep.
He just holds it out there. And that's all he needs to do. And he doesn't move. I mean, he slides his feet well, but he doesn't like fidget around. And it's become like a really effective use of like pick and roll defense. And how many blocks does he have? I'm trying to look here. I guess not that many. Nine, 4 blocks. Okay,
some big ones. Some real big ones. Yeah, some real big ones.
And you look forward. This isn't a matchup thing with the Pelicans, although I think he matched up good with New Orleans. He's, I think, easily their most useful center against Houston.
Yep.
That kind of, I guess, leads. I'm writing a story that's going to be on The Athletic tomorrow, as you know, about him and the situation and how the season has gone for him to what he's done. But the fact that he may be playing himself out of their range, money-wise.
Yep.
I mean, if a team gives it, like the Warriors can't give him more than $2.3 million. I think if a team offers him 3.5 or something that's not that much more, he'll want to come back, because I think the Warriors are going to say, hey, you come back here on $2.3 million next year. Not only will we try to long-term you after that, you could probably start at center next year or at least have a huge role. But if a team, especially if they want to sting the Warriors a little bit, offers him $5 million a year for 3 years, something like that, like 3 for 15, he may be gone, and that would be a blow to a team that could have had him for $2.3 million easily if they just picked up his option in October. And I don't blame them, because we were both sitting there saying, "No way you pick up this guy's option."
I agree. If that happens, you say, okay, they made the gamble, and then they got to develop Damian Jones. I mean, and Jordan Bell. They just have to. But man, they didn't develop. For some reason, Jordan Bell kind of hit a wall, and Kevon Looney is the guy for. They'll take it. If he's helps them win a championship, and that puts them out of their price range, I think they'll make that deal. I think they'll make that deal.
I talked to Bob Myers about it yesterday. I'll have it in the story, but I mean, he was basically saying this is a lot better than if Looney just wasn't good all season, and then they were like, that would have meant they were right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that would also mean they didn't have Kevon Looney in these playoffs.
Absolutely.
And that would be a problem.
Yeah, they would be flinching through a lot of pump fakes and their centers leaping up in the air and getting fouled. And that would have been a little problem against who they're playing and set up to play in the Western Conference playoffs. Real quick, I want to get to some other things, but real quick, who do you think the Warriors would prefer to play right now, Utah or Houston?
They can leak and talk and joke all they want about Utah, but that they think Utah's a tougher matchup. But it's clearly, to me, Houston is a lot tougher matchup. Houston blew out the Jazz in round 1. They've shown it all season. What did they finish with? 67 wins, great net rating. James Harden is at his peak right now. And we're talking about one of the probably the best efficiency-wise offensive players ever. They have the tricky whole, threes and the math and the corner threes and all the stuff that they do. You got the D'Antoni Kerr thing lingering over it. Plus, they're getting healthy and Mute's back, which makes their defense very interesting. They, I believe, finished with a better defensive rating than the Warriors this season. Yep. I don't think they have a better, if you line it up and play playoff intensity basketball, I still think the Warriors have a better defense. But they're not the Rockets of old. So I think they have this a little bit of a disrespect, especially behind the scenes about Houston. But I think if you true serve them, or if we were just talking smart basketball, you clearly, the Jazz are just a lot worse team than Houston. I don't think there's any debate about that. It's been shown on the court.
And the Warriors have beat them in 4 games just a little while ago. But it's an interesting psychological thing that the Warriors, I think, are going through right now. That they're just kind of putting Houston to the side and saying, there's some other really good teams out there. It's kind of the way.
What else?
Go ahead.
They start the series in Houston too. That's something.
Yeah, that is definitely something. Definitely something. That is a huge thing, and there's a reason why. Just because Houston won the season series, Houston won more games. Houston's had a great, and you respect the regular season, no question. All right, Slater. I don't want to go forever here, but people are dying to hear. I know the millennials are dying to hear from you. What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, I'm kind of more of like a view type guy, not like how did the food taste type guy, or like
I thought it was The View, Whoopi Goldberg, and that's what you're going with here.
No. If we're staying local, I'll probably go like Lake Chalet. It has the best, I'd say the best patio, if you want to call it, in Oakland in the East Bay. With they got the dock out on Lake Merritt. I like that, just because, like I said, I just kind of like being in the sun, especially like a brunch type spot there. If we're going road, I always got to kind of stand up for Oklahoma City, especially on podcasts that are very Warrior centric because of the history and the rivalry. And I'm going to get you going on this one. Hopefully, Kitchen 324 in OKC.
How did that restaurant end up in OKC? Tell me that one. It's one of the great restaurants, one of the great lunch spots ever invented. Fresh, great food, great brunch, great sandwiches. How did that happen? Do you have any idea?
I don't know the history. I know it was about 2 streets down from where I live for about a year and a half, so I just started walking down there plenty. But there's good restaurants in Oklahoma City. I would, suggest to the great people out there that have this, stereotypical view of Oklahoma City, maybe in a lot of ways, maybe catch a Warriors Thunder game there, go visit for a few days, travel around, find the good spots, go to Kitchen 324. It is a city I lived in for 3.5 years, and it's got good, nice little hot spots like that, and it's maybe not exactly what you think it is.
It's the Slater tour, the Slated guided tour. I really recommend. It's like, it costs a little bit more, but you get the cassette tape, and you get to put the earphones on, and you just kind of do the Slater walking tour of Oklahoma City. Get to Bricktown.
I will take you on a tour. All you got to do is buy a subscription to The Athletic, and I'll take you maybe a group of, 50 people next year for your Oklahoma City.
Oh, that's Warriors it. We got now we have to do it. Now we have to do it. The Slater tour, The Athletic / Slater tour of Oklahoma City. I love it, and I think I might have had it a time or two, so it's all good. All right, nice finish to this. Get your Kevin Looney story written. I will be editing it. We will be flying to New Orleans tomorrow, and there will be some more basketball to be played. How about your editor-in-chief on the road with you? How about that? First time.
There's gonna be some restaurants you can talk about. You might do a whole podcast on New Orleans.
There's just a few. I will be getting sandwiches at Butcher. I will tell you that. It's no question, no doubt that is happening.
I'm gonna be having some alligator. I'm definitely getting some alligator.
Alligator's good. Alligator done right. Yeah. It's good. All right, everybody, that's the show. Anthony Slater, thank you very much. We'll be talking more and more, but thanks, everybody.